complain within 12 months, please, cut it down, cut it down, cut it down, cut it down.
So I want all the girls watching here now to know that a new day is on the horizon.
All right, everyone. Welcome to day 3 of the hashtag Unfiltered Understanding Sexual Harassment Summit. It has been quite a summit, and I'm sorry if you missed it, but if you've not been tuned into, the previous days, Wednesday or Thursday, then I'm sorry you really missed something. But lucky for you, the replays are here. So I'm just going to tell you a bit more about Girls Who Know, and I'm going to invite Antoinette on, or, co-director, to just chat a little bit. All right, Antoinette, how have you been enjoying the summit?
It's been so good, so good, so enriching and enlightening and impactful, and today is gonna be a blast. I'm so excited, ready to learn and absorb and engage. I'm just so pumped.
Same. It's bittersweet because it's just so. I'm so sad that we have to end and to, stop the conversation on this platform, but the conversation will definitely continue.
Sure,
right? Over Girls Who Know JA, and in every space that we can possibly continue it. So if you missed yesterday, we spoke about we were just understanding gender inequality in general. We spoke about the Jamaican cultural context as it relates to sexual harassment, and how we usually use culture to kind of as an excuse, rather.
Right, yeah.
Sexual harassment, and then we got into youth politics, and we had some lovely youth leaders who are women who came to talk about what they're doing in politics, and then we had like the economic impacts and effects of or how gender inequality affects the economy and how women are affected. And today it's my pleasure to open for the summit and just say, guys, we're going out with a bang. Our panelists are, you'll see when they come on. I just hope you're ready, because we have digital and branding gurus, youth leaders. We're going to be talking about how you can advocate wherever you are digitally, and how you can actually make a difference just by using social media. Then we're going to be talking about the Me Too movement, why we're all here in the first place. And then we're going to end with resources for healing for survivors.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything, Anthony?
That's all of it.
Great. So we can I'm going to go ahead and introduce our host, Miss Shante Shan, or lovely, enthusiastic, vibrant host that has been really she's been really doing a great job at keeping the time down and everyone's strict to time, and facilitating the important conversations that we've been having throughout the day. So without further ado, Miss Shante Shan.
Hello, everybody. I'm so excited, so pumped for day 3. As you said, Chelsea, it's a very bittersweet thing, but all good things must come to an end. But not like a puny end, right? A nice, strong, banging end. So with that, let's dive right into the first segment. And this segment is entitled Activism and the Power of Social Media. Today, I'm going to have 4 panelists join me, and they are Mr. Chad Rattray, Miss Jo Marie Malcolm, Danielle Mullings, and Dr. Terry Carell Reed. Let's give some virtual round of applause for them as they join us.
Hi, Shanti.
Hey, Danielle.
Hi. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, Tanya.
Hello, Jo Marie.
Hey, Joe.
Hi.
All right, where is Chad? All right, so we'll give Chad a few more seconds, but besides that, I'm gonna start it off with a question for each of you. Why did you agree to be a part of this panel, and how does this align with your brand? That's just a little introduction and why you're here with us today. Anybody, it's open for anybody who wants to take it first.
I think this is everyone not knowing who's going to go first. No.
Okay, Daniel, let's start with you.
Yeah, there we go.
So yeah, I decided to join this panel, one, because I love the work that GWK has been doing over the years, and I trust in that brand as an advocacy piece for young women in Jamaica. So that would be why I decided to join, as well as the topic that we're discussing here, digital advocacy, and how that ties into women empowerment overall, and the advocacy around sexual harassment. I think is very important and very timely. And yeah, I decided to lend my voice to it.
Thank you. And Dr. Terry Carell, would you like to follow up after that?
Well, first of all, congratulations. I've been in and out of your summit, and I think it's really amazing you guys are taking on this initiative. I think for me, it's the fact that one, I'm female. You know, I'm a woman. I know what it was like and is like to grow up in a society that treats sexual harassment as if it's absolutely nothing. I've experienced sexual harassment. I'm also the mother of an 8-year-old. So these have always been issues that I've been very vocal about since I was probably in prep school, high school. And so it's just another part of my brand, advocacy, activism, especially when it relates to women and children's rights and having those rights being violated. So using my platform for social advocacy has always been a part of my brand. So it was just natural to lend my voice and platform to this particular initiative.
Thank you. Jo Marie, would you like to go ahead? And I'll fill Chad in on the question. It is, why did you agree to be a part of this panel, and how does it align with your brand? Just so you're part of this.
Okay, so my decision to be a part of this panel really is because I want to be a part of meaningful conversations that are geared towards advancing public knowledge, public awareness about some of the most critical topics in our society. And I echo Terry's sentiments in that I really want to congratulate you guys on creating this platform, being young women, being voices of change, being being a part of the solution and trying to advance that narrative. And that's really why I'm here, to lend my support, to lend my expertise, because I do believe that this is a critical conversation. And I'm happy that instead of us just sitting and looking and not, trying to find a way to solve the problem, we are actively pursuing solutions.
Got you.
And the second part of the question, the alignment with my brand is really, I've always been someone who just wants to have those kind of meaningful conversations. I've always been someone who I'm not shy about giving my opinion and lending my support, because communication in activism is so important. And so it really aligns with who I am as a person, just wanting to really add meaningful conversations to the platform.
Got you. Chad, would you like to go ahead?
Yes, hi everybody. Good afternoon. I think I'm familiar definitely with Shantae, big up yourself. Daniel, Madam Terry Carell, and Jamari. Greetings everybody and greetings to our viewers. I'm very happy to be here. I have never done any type of panel as it relates to sexual harassment and issues surrounding that before. So, it's pretty new to me. Why I'm here is really, well, I got an invitation to be here, and I was so excited to be here because I think that there are certain issues in Jamaica that, are not necessarily voiced a lot, certain conversations that we need to have. And, I am happy to really be a part of that today. As it relates to how this really aligns with my personal brand, in terms of, so there was a time in which I was afraid to talk about certain issues because, a lot of the times, no, it's a serious thing. A lot of the times, you get some backlash for your views and bringing certain things out. So I've just decided over the past probably year or two how I can rebrand myself. And how I can get the confidence I need to be the true youth advocate that I need to be. And that must be centered around being unafraid. And I love that word because unafraid means that you can talk about any single topic and being, not ashamed or afraid of anybody to give your opinion and views. So I speak out against things where whatever is wrong. And, sexual harassment is a big problem, is a big issue in Jamaica and the Caribbean. So I am happy to be here. I'm the only male, but I'm happy to be here. I'm one of the good men, it's just that's the guarantee. That's what everyone knows.
Good man.
But thanks, Shanti, and thanks to the team for having me here.
Of course, you're most welcome, Chad. So I'm going to start it off with Jo Marie. How can activist groups use social media to advance their advocacy? What tangible strategies can they use to increase engagement and cultivate an authentic relationship with their audience?
Okay, so I'm big on analogies because I think they tell the story better than most things. So I just want you to imagine a funnel. And at the top of that funnel, there are 3 core pillars I want people to consider when they are advocating for any cause. The first one is really education. Oftentimes, because of our proximity to causes and our proximity to these particular interests, we forget that there are some people who genuinely do not know why this is so important, why this is an affront to the society, and why this is such a problematic area, or why this is something that's resonating with so many people. And so, as activists, a core part of your messaging has to be about education, and not just merely telling stats, not just merely sharing information, but actually contextualizing the information so that persons can begin to understand, why is this so important? Why should I pay attention? And to really give a voice to those who are not able to speak about these things. So the first pillar is education. The second pillar is empathy. And what empathy says is that you're engaging with individuals who might not know, who might say things that are an affront to your senses that you find offensive. But empathy is what steps in and says, this person might just be speaking because they genuinely don't know. Because unfortunately for them, their experiences, their socialization, and everything that has taught them, this has never crossed their path. And so because of that, you want to engage in the type of discussions that will have that in the back of your mind, that this person is not just strictly talking from a place of not knowing. It could also simply be they just don't even grasp where this is going. So empathy is the type of right.
Jo Marie, I think we're having a bit of connectivity issues right now. But while we get her back, does anybody want to chime in on that question?
So, are you hearing me now?
Oh, we missed the second portion of your response. After empathy, you're moving right at the second part of
okay,
the
no problem. Okay, I didn't get too far. So I'll bring it back. So after empathy, a part of empathy that I would have mentioned was the fact that you're going to be talking to persons who are aggressors. You're going to be talking to survivors, and you're going to be talking to victims. And empathy is what allows you to engage in conversations with those 3 very different groups in a way that you're trying to bring justice, you're trying to bring equality, and you're trying to really solve a very critical problem. The third pillar is empowerment. One of the things about activism that we have to remember is that it's not just a matter of unearthing the issues and the problems. We actually have to be a voice for support for those who are actively going through what we are trying to speak out against. So even though we're calling out aggressors on one side. We're actually supporting survivors. We are giving them that. We're trying to create an ecosystem of support, an ecosystem of comfort wherein they can have these meaningful conversations, and through their own stories, through their own narratives, they're going to be able to give some, empowerment to those who are currently going through it. And so through those three pillars, it's very important that your messaging touches on all three. Because through that, what you will find is persons will begin to understand why this is important. You will be able to engage with people from different walks of life who might not even understand the gravity of it. And then you are giving support, you're giving survivors an avenue to actively start the healing process, to actively, seek comfort or seek support in what they are going through. And so that is the core part. So that's the funnel, or that's the top part of the funnel. The stem of that funnel now is the use of hashtags. So hashtags in the digital context allow you to centralize conversations in a way that's not limited by jurisdictional constraints. It's not limited by, race. It's not limited by gender. It's allowing conversations that are so meaningful to be in one space. So when you think of the Me Too movement and you think of Black Lives Matter, you realize that Black lives didn't just matter in America. Persons were able to engage in those discussions beyond the American border. And so hashtags are so important because they really give an avenue for persons to join in the conversation. Now, a bit of digital marketing really quickly. You want to make sure that the hashtags really are brand appropriate and brand specific to you. So there are times when we use hashtags because we think that they're cool and they're interesting. But the reason Black Lives Matter is so poignant, even though it goes against having short hashtags, is the fact that if it was BLM, it wouldn't, even though that's one of their hashtags, it wouldn't have the same resonance. So when you see hashtag Black Lives Matter, even if you're not sure of what exactly the conversation is, you can jump in and at least get some kind of indication as to what the conversation is happening, or what conversation is happening there. And the last part of that funnel really quickly is the engagement. Again, it's important to note that not everyone is going to be in agreement and in alignment with the cause. You are going to speak to persons who they don't see sexual harassment as anything more than a man and a woman interacting in a way that is might be one-sided. They're not going to see it. And so it is on you as the activist to be able to engage with that person, which is why the education, empathy, and empowerment is so critical, because through Black Lives Matter, I have seen where white supremacists have come on their platform and said, I grew up with a father who had a Confederate flag on his porch, who had a swastika across his chest. I didn't think of it as anything. I just thought that, hey, that's my father, until somebody actually engaged him in a conversation and said, this is what this represents. This is an oppressive symbol. And that person was able to move from, I genuinely don't know, sitting in a seat of ignorance, sometimes not voluntarily. And then once they knew, they took action and they took steps. Because it's one thing to engage with persons who readily embrace your message and embrace your cause. But when you can stand across from someone who was an objector at one point and they cross that line to be in support of what you're saying, that's activism. That's really, putting power behind what you're doing by engaging persons in a way that's meaningful and will move the needle in the right direction. So the steps really are to focus on your messaging and ensure that they check those boxes of empowerment, education, and empathy, ensuring that you are centralizing your conversations through the use of hashtags, because without that, you find that it becomes a little disjointed, and the more voices, the better. Even if those voices are detracting, it at least adds context and meat, for lack of a better term, to the conversation. And lastly, remember that when you are engaging, understand that not everybody is going to be on the same page with you. And so you want to make sure that you're having this meaningful dialogue with that understanding.
Wow. Go ahead.
I think Jo Marie summed that up so beautifully. The only thing that I would probably add to that in the discussion, especially when it comes to branding online, is that a lot of persons are positioning, and of course using that strategy allows them to position very well. But I think people also need to understand that there's a step right before, and that is that you have to be positioning yourself offline as well. A lot of persons using these conversations as buzzwords, and because it's trendy and because it brings a lot of likes and it brings a lot of attention and engagement, you find that people pop up all over the place, saying that they're activists and saying that they're advocates. But then when you look at the consistency of their brand offline, they're silent, they're crickets, they're tumbleweed, and they kind of show up at these moments when it's big on social media. So I think it's extremely important before you even start thinking about, education and the empowerment and really, strategizing how you're going to get your word out, is because you have to be committed to it offline. Means you have to be unlearning, relearning, you have to be humble, you have to be experiencing and exposing yourself to victims and other persons who are actually victims, so that you can actually be a good sounding board and that you can actually use your voice in a meaningful manner. So you can't be doing it based on what you think activism looks like, but really how you can be used as a good tool. And you can't do that if you're just positioning online, but because you're actually learning and doing and putting in the work offline. That's the only thing that I'll probably just contextualize.
Yes.
Wow, I was literally taking notes. That was some holistic gems just now. Education, empathy, empowerment, and just how I can use that personally. My mind is blown. Okay, so my next question is, what goes into your decision-making process on around how you use your platform for advocacy and giving back? How do you identify what initiatives are right for you to support and making sure they align, to what you're saying, and that it doesn't look off brand or, kind of just like an anomaly almost? So what is your decision-making process to ensure that everything that you are a part of is represented in, the things you give back to, the things you speak out against, the things that, your name goes along with that?
All right, thank you for that question. Last month I was reading an article and it's called On the Modern Day Code of Youth Activism, and it alluded to basically the performative aspect of it, where we seem to just join initiatives or join movements just because, or because, as Terry said earlier, it's a buzzword or it's in the know right now. And so when I'm choosing what do I align myself with, and I think I've been thinking about this very deeply in the past few weeks, because I'm saying my platform is growing, and I don't want to just randomly repost anything on my story or randomly share anything to my Twitter, or even what you like and what you retweet. All of it is coming together to tell a message of who you are and what you stand for. And so in identifying them, I say to myself, what are my main interest areas or objectives? All right, that doesn't have to encapsulate everything totally that I will ever retweet, but you have to have some sense of purpose and a focus for where you're trying to go and what message you're trying to spread. So generally speaking, youth empowerment and women empowerment would be one. So anything related to, let's say, tech advocacy for more women in STEM, I'm there. Anything for youth advocacy in helping to raise their voice and empower how they speak about themselves, I'm there. So it's really identifying what are your main focus areas and how can you remain authentic to it. And another thing the article said was that, as young persons, especially, when you're looking to apply for college, you start up these different initiatives so you can put it on your resume and say, yes, man, I did this. It was done.
Right.
And you have youth leaders that are saying that they're creating regional initiatives or regional this and that when it don't reach past Kingston borders. So you have to remain authentic to what you are trying to achieve and authentically represent that online. Don't add, the little buffer around the edges to say, oh, yes, man, this is what I'm doing and this is why I look great. And we have to move from a space of focusing on the advocate instead of focusing on the advocacy. That's my message.
Could you break that down a little bit for me, the advocate as opposed to the advocacy?
Sure. So basically it's saying that you're more focusing on how you can build and position yourself as opposed to what the initiatives or what you're engaging in is actually producing and how it's actually impacting people. So the difference is looking at, it's like saying, wow, Greta is an amazing, like she is an amazing person, right? But leaving the conversation there as opposed to looking at how is what she's doing impacting persons in climate change actually. You get me? So it's a difference in view, and I think we have to be conscious of it. Because I read the article and say, I have to check myself still. I have to look at this and say, what am I doing? Am I being more performative than actually implementing initiatives that actually help persons?
Wow. How about you, Chad? What's your decision making process like?
Well, first of all, I must say the conversation is good. And I think Daniel started off right. No, you have some young people that call themselves youth advocates. As a matter of fact, I think it's a term that is being thrown around in the social media space a lot. Almost everybody is a youth advocate and a activist. But for me, in my decision making process, everybody, I think each youth advocate has a niche, or you have your area of focus that that's you. So I know Daniel always talking about girls in IT, women empowerment, and so and that's good, because what it means is that we're able to cover a lot of areas all at once, everybody having their own different little space. For me, my passion has always been around education and youth empowerment, empowering young people through education. So that's why I always put it together. In terms of the decision making process, I mean, for me, it's never about the big initiatives and the fancy initiatives, those that have the nice social media pages and having the traction. I mean, once you have a genuine cause and a good initiative, because I support a lot of community based initiatives as well. And it's so important because a lot of young people, as what Daniel says, they want to do the region, they want to do the world, but not necessarily impacting their own space. So I think it's very important that I impact, for me, my own space first, and then look on how I can indeed impact, outside of that externally. Um, I do not follow every account. I do not follow any and any person. I don't follow any and any organization. Yeah. And that's because you have to. I think no, because I think Terry Carroll said it best. Dr. Terry Carroll. She said it best. She said it best that is not when you see certain topics trending, everybody will try and come on it, and it's like a bandwagon thing. So yeah, so you have to be very careful which who you follow and what organizations you follow, because at the end of the day, some persons, to be honest with you, even though they call themselves youth advocates and all of these things, sometimes they have an agenda, and sometimes they have ulterior motives than what's actually there. And this is not me just talking out of my head. I've seen it before, I've experienced it, and I'm telling you. Yeah, that's really it for me. I don't think I can add anything else. As I said, it just has to be an authentic brand. I said to young people that are trying to do good, whether in their community or in their parishes, and I'll come on board, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be this. It doesn't have to be on the billboards. It doesn't have to be all over social media. Once you're doing a good cause, then sure, I'll lend a hand.
Wow. Thank you so very much. On that segment or that line of creating a genuine brand, Jo Marie, what is your guiding philosophy as it relates to building a sustainable online brand? And what is one important message that you want the PR team of activist groups to take away to advance their advocacy?
Okay, so the first thing I want to let people know is that personal branding doesn't mean that you become a different person or a new person. There should still be an authentic and very consistent aspect of who you are that's there. And I think sometimes we lose sight of what positioning means. Positioning simply means that you're being intentional. You're simply letting people know. So for example, if you're someone who you're trying to get into a specific space. So let me use Danielle. I'm not gonna pick on you, Danielle. I'm gonna use Danielle. Danielle, her brand screams STEM, screams women in tech, because she's living that walk, she's walking that, she's talking that everything. So when you're thinking of creating that sustainable brand, it should be that when I look on whatever digital asset you have, and not just online, offline as well, there's a consistency in the conversation that you're having. Because something that really erodes a sustainable brand is contradiction. And I think that's what we've been alluding to in different pockets. That when we can't really, like when we see you in person, is it the same person? When you're online, is it that I'm going to see you sticking up for women today, and then tomorrow I'm going to see you retweet something about the fact that women are objects, and that men should, and there's just an inconsistency. right? So it's very important that consistency plays a role. Authenticity, I know Chad would have touched on that, and I cannot stress that enough. Authenticity is what we want. Authenticity is what we want to see more of. We want to know, and I think Terry encapsulates that in so many ways, and people always comment on that when you look online, that when you meet her in person, it's the same person. It's just probably like, to some extent, a more subdued, but it's the same person, you know, it's the same very warm, very, you know, very enveloping kind of personality. And it would have been a disservice to her if, when everybody love her online and we're following the story with Naima and we're following all of these things, and when we meet her in person, it's like, who, you know, it's like, I don't have time for this. Okay. Call my son kind of thing. You know, so it's very important that authenticity is there and is present. So it's authenticity, consistency. By the way, I love acronyms, so bear with me as I go down the line. And the last thing really is engagement. Do not follow vanity metrics only. Pursue value over vanity metrics. And what that means is that even if you are talking to 50 people, give that 50 people the energy, the information, the encouragement, everything that you have as if it was a million. Because when you get to that million, it's going to be a sustained audience. It's going to be people who have been watching your journey from the grassroots. So because of that, they're going to be more invested in your development, and they're going to be more invested in what you're doing. So at the end of the day, comment, talk to people, converse with people. That's what people want more than anything else. They want to be able to feel like, I can talk to Danielle because, you know, Danielle is super approachable, and she has the sign, and she will have funny signs about this, you know, in terms of getting her grades and things like that. You know, people really relate to personality. And I want to just add that on top of the authenticity part, your personality. Let us know who you are. And if you're an introverted person, that's fine. You know, we have this misconception that personal branding is all about extroversion. It's really not. Some of the biggest personal brands you're seeing, if you meet them, you know, they're very shy. Yeah, I knew Terry was going to raise her hand. You know, they're very shy. But what they have, though, over the shyness is just a commitment to their passion and their goal. And they're able to look beyond their own introversion and say, I want to help my community. I know I have something of value, and let me share that with you. So what I would want PR, you know, activists to know is that whatever message, and Terry touched on it earlier, whatever message you're doing, actually all three of them have touched on it. The performative thing, we can see through it. We know when you're really passionate about it. We know if you came on this platform to talk and then tomorrow it's a different person that's showing up. We know when you're really passionate about it. We can see it on you. We don't have to question. So when I see Antoinette and when I see Chelsea, I don't have to question that this is something that they're passionate about. You can see it. So I want to make sure that whatever you're doing from a PR standpoint, don't be attracted to just the vanity metrics. Don't be attracted to and I think Daniel and Chad spoke on it. Don't be attracted to that resume builder that simply says, oh yeah, man, I was an activist and I did this. Let us see with your works what you stand for. Let us make sure that whatever it is that you're doing on a day-to-day basis, I can look beyond that veil and be assured that, yeah, man, Chad is very much into youth empowerment. Everything about him speaks youth empowerment. So in summary, I think that it's important for the sustainability of your brand. You're just being yourself, you know. Don't let branding make you feel like you have to be somebody you're not. All you're doing is that you're doing some consistency things. You're making sure that the story that you're telling over here is the same story you're telling over here. You're making sure that from a professional standpoint, you know, your headshots and those technical things are taken care of. But more than anything else, you are just using social media as a megaphone. It's not supposed to change your voice. It's only supposed to amplify it. So whatever you are fundamentally, that's what we are going to see, whether it's good, whether it's bad.
Yes. Yes, go ahead, Dr. Terika. Oh,
Terry,
you're muted.
You're muted.
Your mic.
She said it's not heard, you guys.
In control.
Terry, your mic.
It was. Oh, sorry.
So I'm just because as she was as Jo Marie started to speak, I was actually scribbling, and the first things I wrote as well were authenticity as well as consistency. To also have a sustainable brand, there has to be credibility, and there has to be an unshakable integrity about you. And what that really means is that at times when it comes to activism and advocacy, it means that you are going to rock the boat. You are going to ruffle feathers. You are going to separate yourself from cliques and sects and groups. It means sometimes it is going to separate the sheep from the goats. And a lot of the times there are persons who sit on the sidelines and they're spectators. Some are silent, some fence it because they don't want to be in that awkward position of having people not like them or being labeled as an advocate or a feminist or an activist. And I think by having a sustainable brand, you need to have brand harmony. And that is how you see yourself, how you want others to see you, and how they in fact see you needs to all align. If one of the three is out of whack, then that means that you do not have brand harmony. If you do not have brand harmony, then there is confusion. People don't really know what you stand for. And in my lifetime, I can tell you, and anyone who's an activist or an advocate, is that when you decide to open your mouth, you must be okay with not being liked. You need to be okay with a group of persons not inviting you to whatever because you stand for something. You have to be okay with being okay with saying what you have to say unapologetically. And when people see that you are unapologetic about the stance that you are taking, regardless of who big and who bad and who have more money or more power or more authority than you, they will actually respect you more. You'll see people coming in and supporting you, and you'll be stepping into rooms that you never even imagined you would have, because people, even if they don't like it, and even if they label you, they have to respect you for what you represent, and they still have to give you your props at the end of the day. And that helps with your sustainability.
To add to
Yes,
that.
go ahead, Danielle.
All right. So to add to what Terry is saying, I would definitely say that you have to know yourself, right? Because when you start to preach a certain message and maybe persons are going against it or saying all kind of hurtful things, especially Twitter, you have to know in yourself that what you're saying is something you actually stand for. Because when the other negative voices start to come at you, it's easy to start kind of questioning a little bit. So you have to be firm and have that foundation laid first before you preach on any message. Know that you fully and totally support what you're saying, and you have facts or information, reasons to back it up that you can speak on. And the second point to add to it is in the concept of keeping your social media on like consistent and in one brand. I said something that I've seen reaching especially young people is that, you know, when the late night reach and all kind of thoughts and feelings hit you and you take to Twitter to express to the world all different things that are affecting you, I would warn against it. Depending on what kind of messaging it is, I think sometimes they put out some very personal information on Twitter, on Instagram, on whatever medium it is, not realizing that you have a digital footprint that kind of sticks with you for a very long period. You know, when you delete something, it's still there in some repository, some database online. So when different thoughts hit you, maybe you're feeling sad today or you're feeling great or ecstatic, whatever emotion it is, you have to keep that center, that focus regardless, and be careful what you put out.
Wow. With that, I'm going to go to the comment section. It's very, very active here. Daniela said, very, very true, Terry. And Tavoy says, love that, advocate versus advocacy. Chit chat with Shan says, load them up, Danielle. Danielle is hilarious, but straight facts. And Danielle is talking through, everybody's in agreement with what we have to say. Ella Kelly saying, yes, you have to be unapologetic when you speak your truth and what you believe. And I couldn't agree more. Chad, as a young person, you know, we are in such a weird stage of our life. It's like we're almost adult, not teen, and we're in this little middle ground, and we're really trying to find ourselves. What advice would you give to somebody who's trying to build an authentic brand, and Daniel as well, who's trying to build an authentic brand, but they don't even know who they are quite yet?
Yikes. Well, what I said to you is that first of all, you have to be yourself. And I think we have all established that. So being yourself, I believe you have to identify who you are first.
Right.
But for me, first of all, and there are persons who believe like Terry Carell, she's Terry Carell. Same day, she just come now and it's just boops Terry Carell. That's how it works. Jean-Marie boops. No, Daniel Mullins. No, it takes years and it takes time. So don't believe that it's going to be a case where you start today and then by tomorrow you already have a brand. Yeah.
Right.
It takes serious commitment. It takes serious confidence as well. And not overconfidence, but confidence. And I think we said it earlier that you have to be comfortable with yourself. And I think Daniel said it as well that not everybody's going to like you. So you have to be comfortable with that because as soon as you put yourself out to the public and try to build that public brand, you're going to meet persons who don't like you, who don't like your opinions, who don't want to hear anything that you have to say. But yeah, so sorry, somebody entered. So yeah, so what you have to do is just really and truly, it starts with you being yourself, and it starts with you finding yourself. I don't think that there's any rubric out there, or any uh, set tips that I can give persons to find themselves because I think everybody find themselves differently. So I find myself different from Shantae. But Shante, you know it as well that we are coming from far. So back then when we were part of the National Secondary Student Council, I don't think we are definitely not the same people we are today.
Right.
I mean, for me, I was immature back then. I didn't know what was happening for myself, to be honest with you. I was just, no, but and it's okay. It's okay. You will find yourself. I tell young people all the time, it is okay. And the other thing is, don't try to be anybody else. Don't try to be anybody else. That's so important. I mean, when I do training for public speaking, I think it's the same thing. I always let them listen to different voices. So I play Obama, I play different world leaders, and I ask them, wait, it's a question. Do all of them sound alike? And the answer is no. Yeah, they don't sound alike. Oprah don't sound like Obama. Tyler Perry, and I can go on and on. What they have, each of them have an authentic voice. So nobody can copy it. Yeah, as you hear it, you know that this is the person that's speaking. And it's the same way that you have to be. It must be a case where once I see you, this is the authentic Terry Carell. This is the authentic Daniel Mullins. So I know say I don't nobody will try to copy somebody else. Yeah. So I think that is so important. So I think those are the general tips I think that would basically really and truly help persons to build their brands.
Thank you, Chad. Thank you
Welcome.
so much. And just the last question for the panel is, how effective are social media campaigns in garnering support that lead to changes in Gordon House, and how can we continue doing that? Just some tips on how we can take it from Instagram to Gordon House or Twitter, social media in general, tips on how we can really just push forward that change into realization.
Can I start off then? Since Terry wants to.
Yes,
Terry,
yes.
you can go ahead. You can go ahead, Terry. You can go ahead.
Oh.
I'll speak after you.
No, it's her mic is on me, so she's saying you're free to go.
Oh, okay. So I was
Yes.
saying that I think that's such an excellent question. Because we live in now the social media age, and what we're seeing now is that it's not like a talk shop in certain cases where it was back then. Well, probably still, some sectors still have a talk shop, but it's more action now. I mean, you're seeing a case where certain type of social media like Twitter, especially Twitter, is so impactful and is so effective in bringing across a message and bringing across changes. I mean, we have seen where persons have been, because persons have started certain conversations that has brought attention to policymakers to say, hey, I have to definitely tune in and listen to what the young people are saying now. We have seen where certain ministers have made certain remarks, certain statements. Certain people have to pressure them, certain influential people like Terry Curran, yeah? She knows what I'm talking about. But social media is powerful. It is
Right.
a powerful tool that can be used to change our space and our local realities. And I don't think a lot of young people even see that. I mean, yeah, Instagram, I think, okay, let me put it this way. Each social media tool or each different app has its
Mm-hmm.
own function, and so I wouldn't say each of them are the same. So
Right.
Instagram, most people go on Instagram really to put off the best self, yeah. To I don't want to call it profiling, but it's a sort of profile. You can basically call it that.
Yeah.
Um, Twitter is where majority of serious conversations, majority of issues that are not usually touched on. That's a space for it. And Twitter don't a lot of the times Twitter don't accommodate the nonsense in terms of you have some persons who will come and they will say all sorts of things and certain perspectives that are so wrong. And Twitter is a place where they really drip them up. That's a word. I'm learning the slangs as I go along. So they drip them up. And yeah, and
Yes, Twitter will
also
cancel them for
so
real.
importantly, on social media, we have seen where polls are done. We are seeing where surveys are done. As you know, Shanti and others, you need a petition if you want to get certain issues worked on, and you have the Office of the Prime Minister page and so on. And we have seen where social media has helped to move a lot of these issues that young people find important to them. Not even just young people, but Jamaicans, what they find important to them. So as it relates to sexual harassment, which I think is what, or issues surrounding that, we will. Well, I don't think it's a can. We will continue to use social media to advance the different movements that are there, to empower women and to empower young people in general. And anything that there needs to be, any changes as it relates to legislative or policy changes to be made, all simply that we need to do is just be united and be one front, stand together, and as I said, unity is strength, and divided will fall. So we just need to come. I mean, we will never agree. I mean, a lot of us will never agree on, what our perspectives are, because everybody has a perspective.
Right.
But what I think we can agree on is what the mission is at the end of the day. And let's all come together and push our mission. So I think that's the best way that we can do. I see Terry Curl signaling, so I'll hand it over to Terry.
No, no, well said, well said. And again, just reminding everyone that the question was how do we use social media and then move it from a space which is very virtual into, getting policies changed. And I would say one, you cannot be an activist or I shouldn't say, you cannot be a meaningful and impactful activist or advocate if you do not educate yourself. You cannot speak up on a platform and say that you're using your voice on behalf of the community that is vulnerable or voiceless if you have not armed yourself with information. So that means that we can't do the bits of digesting bits of information, bits of headline in me and reading people's comments and formulating an opinion. It means you actually have to read the article. It means you actually have to go and see what that bill looks like. It means you have to see what other persons who are the experts in the space are suggesting and recommending and why they're doing that. So it has to start from a place of educating yourself outside of just, dibbing and dabbling in a few things. Number two, data, data, data. When it comes to changing policy and legislation, it can't be a gut. It can't just be a whim. It can't be I think it's this and I think it's that. It is actually getting the right data. And of course, Chad had said it earlier, whether it's in the form of polls or surveys, sometimes you start with your school group, maybe it's a class, maybe it's a community, but it is getting data and stats that says, hey, this is not a unique situation, but we have X amount of people who have experienced this across different age groups. So now you kind of go armed with data and some sort of evidence that helps to back up the education you already have. And finally, it takes action. Yeah, you sign a petition, Okay, cool. And I understand that advocacy takes place in different forms, but we can't all just be keyboard warriors. It means sometimes we have to come from behind the computer. We have to come from behind the keyboard, because when people actually see you on the front line, meaning maybe you are attending Parliament, maybe you are outside Parliament, maybe you're a part of a march, it means that you are not just lending your voice and it's performative, but it's actually transformative, because now you are a part of the action. So I think education, data, and actually becoming a part of the execution and the action of your platform are important in terms of getting policies and things in place.
Wow, thank you guys so very much. I'm just gonna go over here and go to our comment section. Christoph Ellis is saying, after 2 a.m., thoughts are personal diaries. For real. I agree. He was referencing Danielle's comment. Daniela is also agreeing 100% with all we have to say. And Sabrina says, read the acts and the bills. Recently, I had to go through the anti-sexual harassment bill to make a submission on what I think should be added or changed. The government sent out a public notice. She's doing the work, and she's not just being, as Dr. Terry Carroll said, a keyboard warrior. And
but just add to you, Shanti, very quickly, just add to that, and Sabrina is so correct. Also, what I'd invite persons to do is to read Guyana's Sexual Act. It's very progressive. So that's other thing as well, as we relate to policies, is that we have to read outside of our region and outside of our zone as well, so that we can make comparative analysis, so that we can bring solutions together. Because at the end of the day, that's what advocacy is all about, finding solutions. I just wanted to just add to Sabrina's point.
Thank you for that. That's very true. Yesterday, our panelists, and the day before that, we had a group of lawyers just giving us a breakdown of the bill and saying, just looking at different countries within the region, Trinidad as well, and Guyana, and how progressive their bills are, and how we kind of took, a little bit of advice from theirs to create our own. Our own still needs some work, but as you said, comparative analysis is very good. And Kim says, I'm about to enroll in Jo Marie School. So I don't know, Jo Marie, if you have an institution that... Right. Wow. And with that, we come to the end of our first session. That was super enlightful. Thank you all so very much. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Dr. Terry Carrell, Jo Marie, Chad. Thank you guys so very much. I personally learned so very much. It's like these are my notes that I have written down here. And just thank you. Have a good day, guys, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us. Big up on yourself. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Wait, Shanti, how do I leave?
Hello, everybody. So I want to remind you guys that we're having a giveaway. Yes. Remember to follow us at Girls Who Know JA. It looks like. I think Chelsea might join me in a quick second. But yes, this is the post that you should comment on to win yourself a free t-shirt, and that is sponsored by For a Better Jamaica. That's on Instagram. So please feel free to go and win yourself a t-shirt. How was that, Chelsea?
Oh my goodness, that was just
that was like school.
Notes, pant up on notes. Like it was everybody showing off their notes. That is so funny, and I really loved it, and I love the balance that we had on that panel, especially between the more seasoned folks, so Jo Marie and Terry, and then people like us Gen Zers who are still formulating who we are, still learning about ourselves, but still want to make a difference. So I really
enjoyed that. Jo Marie, from the starting, I say no. I have to get my notebook. What? A funnel? I drew a funnel. What?
Exactly. And this is a type of the info that we don't necessarily think about when we say we're typing up a post or picking up
all of that.
Exactly. And for us as advocates, I consider myself a youth advocate. And I had to educate myself, have to have empathy, the engagement. It was just so mind blowing, and we can't wait to implement some of these stuff here at Girls Who Know, right, Anthony?
Definitely. I agree as well. I mean, as a, media and communication student, that definitely resonated so well with me. And, I have work to do because there's still so much to be done. And I also definitely want to have my capacity built as much as possible. And yeah, I took like 3 pages full of notes.
That was just wholesome.
So, panel. So good. So good.
So,
Wow.
hey guys, so I'm Chelsea, that's Antoinette, Shante, and we're going to kind of segue now into a little discussion. And we're gonna be having the discussion with you guys, you being the audience, viewers watching at home. We really want to give you guys the opportunity to really like ask us questions and chat with us. And our topic of discussion is, drum roll, Me Too.
Yes.
Me Too Jamaica. Me Too Jamaica. And the reason why we felt this was so necessary is because personally, I feel like it's what brought us here
in the first place. Yes.
Entirely what brought us here in the first place. And from Minister Chuck's statements and reactions to the bill, and like during the conversation that he had, and saying that he doesn't want any Me Too movement here in Jamaica, and then the public response and like the reaction to it, was just like wow. And it kind of asked, or it kind of triggered the question in my mind, like, do we as Jamaica, like the Jamaican citizens, do we know what the Me Too movement even is? So my question, or my first question to you guys would be, what comes to mind when you hear the Me Too movement, or like Me Too Jamaica? And then like as we wait for comments, I guess both of us, all of us can like
chime in.
Just before I, give my little 2 cents about what I think Me Too is, I definitely want to encourage everyone to hop on over to the Instagram. We have a giveaway, right, for one of our My Name Isn't t-shirts. Enter the giveaway so that you can potentially win that prize at the end of today's segment. But just to give a bit of what I think Me Too movement is, or what I first think of when I hear Me Too, I hear a collective voice of women sharing a similar experience. So that's what Me Too to me means. At my first time hearing it, which was I think a couple years ago, I was like, okay, Me Too means me too. Like I can relate to whatever someone else can relate to as well, or experience. And just kind of going into it and researching it and reading all about it, I got to understand that the Me Too movement was developed, back in 2006 to help Black women of color to, find resources for healing and rehabilitation after being, sexually harassed or sexually abused. And it was just such a really big discussion and discourse on social media with the use of the hashtag Me Too, and women all over the world, were able to climb into that, share their stories, share their discussions, help other women, even though they weren't in their immediate spaces or communities. And that, I just think that is so beautiful and impactful, even though it's very disturbing to know that so many women, not only here in Jamaica or the US, but all across the globe, have similar experiences with sexual violence. But
I feel that Antoinette. Shante, you want to chime in, or your first impression of the Me Too movement, like when you heard of it?
Okay, I can't remember when I first. Actually, I can't remember when I started college. I Because when you're in Jamaica, it's like you hear something not going, but you don't really know. But when you come and you start to live in America and you really exposed to the founding location of this movement, and you realize how significant and how important it is. So when you're in Jamaica, it's like, okay, it's some girls that got raped or something like that, and I wasn't there. It wasn't my reality. So I obviously didn't really take it up on myself to really look into it. I was just concerned with what's going on in Jamaica. And that wasn't really affecting us, or we thought at the time. And then and then when I got here and I hear all this Me Too thing, and I said, what? All these ladies just coming out of no, supposedly nowhere, and then actually people, that's how people are phrasing, like they're coming out of nowhere, and they're trying to tear down these men, and it's like, no, what if they've just finally had the courage to stand up for themselves? You know what I mean? What if they also had the 12-month thing that Delroy Chuck referenced, and then there wouldn't be no movement, because what, 12 months is not enough time for me to say, okay, I'm ready to speak out now. So my initial reaction was, I guess, a group of ladies finally having the courage to stand up, and not just ladies, men too, because it's not just women that go through sexual harassment, sexual abuse, sexual assault, all of that. So I think it's finally just having the confidence to speak out and realizing that you're not unique.
You're not alone, right? I agree.
So someone said expose in that specific spelling. Wow. Exposed, and then somebody says, or Sadian says, hi Sadian. She says, I think, in quotes, you had to go through drama too, right? Sad to say, but yeah. So that's it. That's really it, guys. The Me Too movement is just a movement in support of the healing and like community that can be formed with survivors. And many people think that it's just focused on exposing abusers, harassers, and perpetrators of the abuse, but it actually isn't, or it's not that alone. It really is surrounding and like focused on just survivor empowerment, survivor healing, survivor, just everything. And it's about the person. I would say it's about moving the person who was abused from being a victim to a survivor.
Empowered, right? Exactly.
Being empowered.
I agree with that.
Sorry, go ahead, Shanti.
I'd say also, as it relates to what Jo Marie said earlier about engagement and how you're going to face aggressors and people who oppose you. Even this movement has gone through that with the Time's Up movement, and it's just crazy how every single thing in life, there's going to be a for, there's going to be an against. And I think even with the against, you just have to find the courage, the confidence, and the strength to continue to be for. And it's crazy how much support the opposing movement has gathered to. But I would just thought I'd point that out, and how with standing out, there are going to be people who want to shut you in,
want to silence you, right? Yeah, I agree. And I mean, as it relates to what our Justice Minister had said, expressing that he doesn't want, the situation of Me Too in Jamaica, it's very unbecoming and backward, because why wouldn't you want, survivors, people who you are supposed to be protecting and ensuring that Jamaica, is maintained as a law-abiding country, not to have that community, not to have that, not to have channels for resources to, grow and move past your hurts and your trauma, and to, finally become empowered again and be able to contribute to the society. So, I mean, we definitely have to kind of take note of that. And as you said, Shantae, continue to press on, because there will always be, opposing forces, but that doesn't mean the race is over. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't continue doing the work that you are doing. So I thought I'd just chime in on that. We have some more comments. Kim says, Me Too for me is not just about relating and having similar experience or trauma, but also having a safe space for people to talk about that experience and having help in healing those scars.
Yes.
Too much, yes. She also said, to spread awareness on what us as female continue to express and the injustices we face. Yeah, because I mean, just to point back to what Jo Maria had said about hashtagism, just how impactful a hashtag can be, and it's not just specific to like a geographical location or a community or a country, but once you're online and once you have access to that platform, you are able to chime in on that discussion, see how you can help others, and share it and spread more awareness around that subject matter. So I think that's one of my favorite things about hashtags.
Yeah, kind of craft for us. And I think the other thing I'd want to add about hashtags too, hashtags are like the little pepper that you put on like a Sunday dinner. Like when it's money bus.
Yes.
I mean, you can use hashtags to really target your message to even perpetrators and aggressors. So you literally can just use hashtags and use the hashtags that they would normally use. So for instance, if I'm targeting, say, Black Lives Matter, and I want people who don't believe that Black Lives Matter
right,
to kind of understand, because I'm posting content that's informational or educational to kind of discuss and say, hey, this is why you should care. I'm going to use hashtags like Blue Lives Matter, MAGA 2020, 2020. I don't care about
because we have to interrupt those spaces as well. Excuse me.
Exactly.
That's right.
The thing that happens is that you're kind of preaching to the choir. So everybody you're kind of following or who's following you, you see your content. They probably, they believe what you believe. And if they're not sharing it, which they should be, then it's kind of like in a bubble. And the people who you want to be targeting don't necessarily get to see a message. So that's a little tip about hashtags as well.
Yes.
Agreed.
All right, another comment. So when I think of Me Too, I honestly think of sadness, struggles, and pain. I'm an emotional person, and to think of what these individuals go through, it pains my heart, but it brought along awareness.
Yeah.
I'm an emotional person too, Ella. Like I can relate 100%. But sometimes with being emotional, you just have to understand that there are certain things that you have to say, certain things that must get out there, and you have to just overcome that. But I agree. I can relate to that emotional person. Like when God did that make me, him just emotion. Him done it. I agree with that.
Same. Another one. Me Too is speaking out against the powerful persons. And I think that's where the opposition and disdain for it comes from. Say it louder for me, Sandra Gay. Say it louder. But yeah, I agree. I definitely think that these powerful people in our society, people of status, are afraid, and are against the Me Too movement because of how much it highlights the indiscrepancies and highlights, the bad things that are going on in our country and in our spaces, and perhaps it's threatening their own actions or their reputations.
Right. You're so. Where's the lie? No lies.
No lie to take.
Wait, we're going to stick on this comment, but we're going to come back to it, man. We're going to come back to it. I never knew much about sexual harassment growing up. So much so that it wasn't until I was older I realized I was sexually harassed when I was younger. Hearing others' stories helped me to understand it. this is why the movement is so important, and it pains my heart to hear someone say like, why she wait so long to say anything, why
Right.
she wait so long to do anything. And I'm like, some of us don't even know.
Oh,
How would you say to a child why them wait so long to say anything when they just
They didn't know how to speak.
they didn't
What?
know how to speak,
exactly.
what was happening to them. So all of us can attest to that, and we really understand.
Yeah, it's crazy how ununique or unspecial that is, because sometimes when you go through it and you say, well, that was kind of odd, but then when you go home and you think, but yeah, say something wrong. It's like when you go to the supermarket and you're really young and you buy what you have to buy and you go to the cashier and you get back some money and you say, this look weird. But it's when you reach to your mother and your mother say the person rob you, you realize that, oh, you never know how to calculate the things them. So oh, it's literally the same thing. You never know. It happens to you. You have a little inclination, but you never really have enough knowledge or sometimes enough confidence. You grow up, and the mother could represent some institution that you join and you talk to, and you're sure, and them say, no, that is wrong.
That's wrong.
And
Wrong.
Exactly.
should you not go back to the cashier and get back your change? Should you? Okay, same thing.
Same. Like that.
Quite
Yeah.
truly.
All right, so we're going to move on to our next question. The reason why I said stick up in what Sandra Gay Francis was saying was it Sandra Gay? I think so.
Yes.
The question is, why do you think some lawmakers are against the Me Too movement? So that's the question we're gonna be talking about right now. Why you think some lawmakers are against the Me Too movement? Because, all right, so my take on it is that, as Antoinette said, a part of or an excuse that we have is that the culture is, tactile and touchy. So a lot of the things that we are considering as sexual harassment now isn't usually considered as sexual harassment.
Right. Yeah.
When in truth and in fact, they've always been sexual harassment. They've always been sexual harassment. And it's just now we are wake up and saying, hey, we're not going to allow this to happen to us anymore. And we're taking our power back. So
Yeah, I agree. And I also think why lawmakers are against it is to kind of protect that patriarchal society or system that we're used to. I think it's, and also just that misogyny. I can imagine that a large group of people are screaming at you that you are incorrect, and how hard it may be for you to come to grasp with that fault of yours, and to admit that you are wrong. I guess they're afraid of that admission of guilt, as well as afraid of potentially ruining their reputation in an event that they have harassed someone or have sexually abused someone. And this is definitely for males and females, not just males. So yeah, I think that's why some lawmakers are afraid of it. And as well as when you look at how many cases of sexual harassment there are in Jamaica, it would really look bad on their part to know that so many people have the same experience, and to have to go through that process of trying or convicting all the abusers and perpetrators. They just don't want to have that stress. They don't want to have that experience. And that can work because that's what you are here for. That's what the office, that's what our justice office calls for. That's your mandate. So if you didn't want the job in the first place, it's best you not take it, because if you're not, able to effectively serve and equitably, then don't. I definitely think that Jamaica has too far accepted this attitude of corruption. Oh yeah, man, Jamaica is corrupt, and I just saw it go if you don't have
but it's not a real place.
Yeah, I think that notion, that perception, everything related to that needs to be broken right now. and immediately, because it's unprogressive. The country, we as a people, individually and collectively, cannot progress, cannot grow with that kind of mentality. So
I feel the same way, Antoinette, and I honestly feel as a woman, like there's no, like, Jamaica is so unsafe for women. Like, I do not feel safe, because if anything's supposed to happen to me, nobody never really hear about it or care until I'm dead. And that's the reality, and I don't want it to become a solid fact, you know?
yeah,
Right.
I want it to become that, and it looks like, based on the data, that's
that's what it looks like, exactly.
That is what is bound to happen. I remember at the start of the year, there were like 7 crimes back to back with domestic partner violence or intimate
Yes,
partner
yes,
violence.
yes.
And it was like what? It was like back to back to back. And I was like, these people, that girl literally could have been me. So what? So what? And nothing was, it was like nothing was being done. And then you had some very, let me be very like,
Unfiltered. So
Yeah, I mean,
no, distasteful comments from people that are probably just unaware, blaming the girl and saying, she probably wanted it on herself, and she probably shouldn't have done that. She shouldn't have cheated. If she decided to cheat back on her, we have to kill her for that. Cheat back is not a cheat, and it's not. That's not how it works. It's like your ego is so fragile. What? Oh, yes, someone cheat on you. What? No, she has to die.
exactly.
And what that says to me,
go ahead.
okay, all right. So what that says to me is that you own the woman, the men own us clearly. So we're objects that are disposable. And because we are owned, then if we do something that is not to your liking, then we have to be disposed of.
Yeah, yeah.
Pretty much. Or not disposed of, but then we have to be damaged, in some way. Because I've seen ladies with lots of scars on their face, and it's like this what I remember very vividly. It was like this, some news site. I don't remember what, but yeah, this lady, she had really, really bad lacerations to her face, and like, a lot of lumps as a result of the cuts that she had gotten. And it was as a result of her partner being taunted by his friends that she was too pretty for him. And I said, oh, because she's too pretty now, he's just gonna make her less attractive. What?
Exactly. What? I read that story to Shantae. He tried to kill her, or like burn the house down or something crazy like that.
Yes, Christoph must have bun for bun. Anything except if somebody cheats on you, cheat right back at them. That don't mean you have to kill them. That don't mean you have to endanger their life. That don't mean you have to scar their face. That don't mean you must take a life just because they stepped out on the relationship. It hurts. Deal with that emotion. How many men would come forward and just say, okay, it hurt. It hurt being cheated on. No, but you have to be this macho man and killer.
Toxic masculinity.
Bun for bun. That's a hashtag bun for bun.
Yeah, because honestly, I don't think we need to be protecting these men's ego any longer, because we as Chelsea said, we're not objects. You don't own us. You can't just do whatever it is that you feel like based on if your ego is being threatened or not. We are not here. I'm sorry. We are not here to inflate your ego and to satisfy it. So there is no reason why, if something threatens your ego and our sense of empowerment that we are entitled to and righted to, and if it is that we act in our, or in our autonomy and in our rights to do what we can as women, hurts you, does not give you a warrant to violate us or to be violent towards us.
That's right.
We need to cut out, because imagine me there with a man, and if I decide that I want to wear something that I like or I think sexy and fitting and attractive on my body, and you don't like it because you're not secure with yourself, you know what? Drag me by my ear and drag me back into the house and boom, 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 because I am empowered and I have rights to do what I want.
To have autonomy over your own body.
Exactly. And this is
Let me just clarify. What I'm saying is that if somebody cheats on you and you want to hurt them, if you're that petty and you want to inflict some form of pain, right, feel free to cheat on them, but don't take their lives. Personally, what I would recommend, if someone has cheated on you, just leave the relationship. Just leave it. There are more women in Jamaica. You have so much more options. Go out there, but why you have to kill her?
Yeah,
so I'm not saying that's what I ascribe to. If let's just say if I get cheated on, well, I'm very petty, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna walk away. I'm just
everybody. Humans, we are not objects. We are not objects. But before we transition off, I want to ask one final question though. And that is, what do you think needs to be in place for Jamaica to have an effective Me Too movement? And I say effective Me Too movement because we had a Me Too movement before, a Me Too movement, and it was the Tambourine Army.
Right.
The members were so vilified. I believe the leader, she got a defamation suit against her.
Right. Yeah.
Could you repeat that? We had a Me Too army, but what?
So it's called a Tambourine Army.
Yeah.
And they were vilified and basically made out to be seen as like nasty and just bad. And there were charges brought against the leader.
Yeah.
That's why he got 16 million defamation.
16 million in defamation charges.
Because she was challenging the status quo and speaking out against her aggressors, basically exposing people, and because of that, they tried to shut her up. And that kind of like they tried to quell the fire that was the Tambourine Army, and that happened in 2017. And from that, we just kind of like became silent once. And I just hate the fact that whenever a survivor is empowered and they're going to seek some sort of redress, is like hell and powder or starting.
Yes.
Like, everything is against her. Why she want to do this? Why she wait so long? Why this? Why everything else? But
except the matter. Except why the man do that. Every other why.
My question is, what do you think? What needs to be put in place for Jamaica to have an effective movement?
First of all, I am very glad that you mentioned that. I was totally unaware of that, and now I'm realizing. So we had one, and them call it out, and Delroy check don't want another one now. Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, it's been. Listen, we have radicals, we have human rights activists, we have every kind of activists here in Jamaica. But you see, the moment it kind of creep in and kind of
it's strong up now. Yeah,
who are in power, then them send out people, them send out things, they do things to make it into villains and shut you up.
Yeah.
So what I would say we need to have an effective, say, Tambourine Army or a Me Too movement is allies. And when I talk about
allies, yes.
When I talk about strong people in high places, honestly, because I links around Jamaica.
Yeah, and influence. So what we need are influential people who, once they say something or do something, everybody else is like, wow, this is happening, and then everybody else will realize the issue and hop on it. You see, the moment Jamaica collectively, pushes against these forces and pushing against anti-Me Too movements and organizations, is the moment change is gonna actually happen, because the governments opposers, perpetrators, everybody who are, at fault.
Yeah.
They don't have any other choice.
I agree. I'd also like to highlight Daniel Jennings' comment about the sex offender registry. Guys, it's serious. We need one. We need one right now. We need to know who
There's
these
one,
people are. We need to have a record that we can show any and everybody. So yesterday, somebody actually messaged me asking me to help them, spread awareness about it. And I'm gonna implore all of you guys to follow me on Instagram and click the link in my bio. It's the first link on my link tree to help get the petition to 15,000. Yes, so that we could have it heard from, we'll have it listened to at the Gordon House. So please, that is very important. Jamaica doesn't have an official sex offender registry.
I think
That is
we have one.
crazy.
There is
one, and it's under the Sexual Offences Act,
Right.
but it's not. I don't think it's
Updated. Them not use it. Them not pre. Them. Well, all right. So we don't really have a good one. Then
So
we need a real one.
it needs to be public and it needs
Yeah.
to be real, basically. So let me see if I can run through some of these comments. So that's a really great comment, Daniel. Thank you. No more slaps on the wrists, says Celia. It's true. The court system needs a shift. Molesters need to be charged and imprisoned. Yes.
Yep.
Michaela says, not sure why some of these predators and apologists cannot see us as humans. We deserve respect, regardless.
Yes.
That's on period too. I think. To answer the question we just asked, I think having organizations coming together will be more effective, and using platforms like this to educate the wider society. More voices, more.
Yes, I agree.
And then we'll take our last comment. The mindsets of our people need a drastic change up. Yes, victim blaming needs to stop. And I believe we need a Jamaica Moves version of sexual education for the public. Honestly, the stats are there, the data is there. Women are literally it's a femicide. Let's just call it. It's a femicide. And I don't understand why the steps aren't being taken by lawmakers. Yes, we have different advocacy groups and civil organizations doing what we can, but let's be real. Them have the money and them have the power and influence, so they need to be doing something as well.
Yes, agree fully.
So that kind of concludes our segment about Me Too Jamaica.
Yeah.
And guys, go and do your research. Read up about the Me Too movement. Read up about the Tambourine Army. Read about their affiliates and what actually happened, because more people need to know rather that the Me Too movement was here in Jamaica, and because people were threatened, they were silent.
And just remember that it's a process. You're not going to know everything in one day. You just continue, do what you can do little at a time. Because I can assure you that I don't know everything. Antoinette doesn't know everything, Chelsea, but we try. So it's just the effort that really, really counts. And that will, make this thing work a lot better, a lot faster, and just a lot fairer for every gender, not just women. So with that, we're going to move into our second segment of the day, and that is lasting physical and psychological impacts of sexual violence and the resources that we can use to heal. And on today's panel, we have Shante Foster. I know my namesake. And Rachel V. Brown, along with Professor Alexis Goff. All right, so Shante has been an ambassador for We Change for almost 4 years, gaining experience in advocacy for the rights of all people, regardless of nationality, socioeconomic status, abilities, race, gender, or sexuality. She's particularly devoted to protecting the rights of women and girls by promoting feminist ideals and challenging the status quo. In addition to advocacy, she is a dedicated educator, tutoring at the primary and high school levels. As an educator, she's passionate about sharing what she has learned with others, and when she isn't busy tutoring, she can be found watching Netflix and reading books written by women of color. Next up, we have Rachel Brown. Rachel Victoria Brown is a 29-year-old Jamaican doctoral candidate currently pursuing a PhD in media, communication, and culture at the Universitat Autónoma de Barcelona in Barcelona. Oh, Barcelona! Like, I had to just fangirl a little bit. I was just in Spain last semester until Corona said goodbye. Moving on, her thesis, which will be written in both English and Spanish, focuses on the impact of social media activism on the law and society. She's also a teacher and consultant for multiple companies in Barcelona. Rachel is the co founder and executive director of Every Mickle Foundation, located in Jamaica and Florida, which serves approximately 350 orphans and underprivileged youth annually. Every Mickle serves 6 children's homes: Dare to Care, a home for children with HIV and AIDS; St. Anthony's, a home for pregnant teens; Mary's Child, a home for abandoned babies; Matthew 25 verse 40, a home for boys; Martha's House, a home for girls; and Jamaica National Children's Home, a home for rescued street youth. Their programs focus on mentorship, female empowerment, literacy, career development, sports, performing arts, mental health, physical health, hygiene, academics, environmental sustainability. Their most recent projects are an island beautification mural project across Jamaica, a sewing workshop for pregnant teens at St. Anthony's Children's Home, and the installation for solar panels in 3 orphanages they serve. So that's it for Rachel Brown. And lastly, we have Alexis Goff. He is the son of Susan and Dennis Goff. He's an educator, restorative justice practitioner, circle keeper, drummer, and trained therapist. His entire professional career has been working with children, youth, and their families in schools, prisons, and counseling centers. Some of his favorite experiences have been as a director of guidance counseling and therapist in Jamaica and dean of studies in Minnesota. He's deeply grateful to his teachers such as um, Zali River, Alice Lynch, Frank Lumsden, Candine Anderson, and his parents. Without further ado, let's welcome our panelists.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello. Hello, Alexis.
Hi.
Hello, Dr. Rachel, V. Brown, and Shantae. Oh, wow. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. I'm going to just kickstart it with our first question. How prevalent is the rape trauma syndrome and PTSD in Jamaica, and describe the impact it has on survivors' social interactions? I guess, Alexis, you could start that off first.
But I'm wondering if I don't know if Shantae would want to start off with the numbers, because I don't have access to a lot of the numbers, or if there are numbers.
Yeah, I was about to say that I do not have numbers on that, and I was thinking maybe as someone who's working in that specifically, I don't. I have more anecdotal evidence than actual numbers.
Wow,
I have numbers. Research vibes. Right. So about 94% of victims of sexual trauma, sexual abuse, sexual assault experience PTSD. And I've been seeing some of the numbers in Jamaica. They've been varying based on the articles. I'm not exactly sure what they are. But I'm seeing 1 in 10 in the Caribbean experience sexual violence. Globally, it's 15 in 1,000. But in Jamaica, it's 51 out of every 1,000. I think what I've seen repeatedly is that the numbers are severely underreported. So there's a lot more cases. I know in the US, it's 1 in every 6, which sounds more right to me personally, but 94% of victims experience PTSD.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Shanti,
Yeah.
could you back that up with your anecdotal experience?
Yeah, that seems pretty on point from what I've seen anecdotally, is that a lot of people have varying degrees of how it affects them. Whether it be they get into a similar situation and are instantly triggered by certain things. It could be objects, it could be people who look like them, it could be certain places. There are many things that can bring up those emotions again. And I obviously, as someone who's not a professional psychiatrist or psychologist, can't really identify those things necessarily as PTSD, but I have seen a lot of those negative effects.
Wow. Wow. That is crazy. And Dr. Rachel Brown, could you just give us, so the audience and myself as well, what exactly is rape trauma syndrome and PTSD, and how can we see it and recognize if somebody is experiencing those things?
So PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. I don't really know how to explain rape trauma syndrome. Maybe Alexis might be able to help, or Shanti might be able to help. Basically, some of the, I guess, visual impacts or effects of PTSD when it comes to sexual violence. I've seen that there's avoidance of, as she just mentioned, triggers, people, objects, things that might allow them to remember. There's nightmares. Of course, you're not necessarily going to see someone having nightmares, but there's that.
Yes.
Disorders, anxiety, there's withdrawal, depression, OCD, substance abuse, digestion problems, there's problems with periods, low sexual desire, or the opposite, an increased sexual appetite. And yeah, so there's just, I guess in my experience with my girls, what I've noticed is a lot of times it can manifest itself in the form of aggression, as well as I said before, withdrawal as well. So I think what's important to understand with PTSD for any situation, but for sexual abuse, is that it's not the same for anybody. It manifests itself differently in everybody based on what you experience, based on yourself as an individual, based on so many things. And so there really isn't one way. It's just up to us to be observant and notice the changes and then act appropriately.
And perhaps you could even seek professional help, because I think that's something that's kind of stigmatized, especially not just in Jamaica, but in Black cultures and communities, to go talk to somebody that is trained, somebody that could really, really help you. So I think, and just to point that out there, in terms of my experience and people not really being willing to seek professional help. And Shante or Alexis, anybody could take this question. What is the timeline of the impact of victims? If you could just like walk us through, like I wouldn't say there's an average average sexual victim, but what's the timeline of the impact? Like, and I know no story is the same, but is there something that you could give us to kind of show us a timeline of how that affects a victim?
You want me to take that one?
Yeah, you can take that. I don't think there is a clear way of saying timeline at all, because everybody is different. There are a lot of people who repress memories of certain situations, and those things don't come out for years. But then there are other people who very shortly after have, for instance, as Dr. Rachel Brown said, expressions of aggression, which can come out very soon after the incident.
Right. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think if one thing for folks to take away, as Dr. Brown and Shantae said, like there isn't one way a survivor reacts. There isn't a one timeline, that survivors go through. I was just in a conversation earlier today with someone that said that they realized this like 12 years later. In terms of having an access to a vocabulary to say, this is actually what happened, to me.
Right.
But something what was important that they said was that they realized that what their body was feeling, right, that they're feeling of like a disruption in sleep, as Dr. Brown said, or they're feeling of questioning like who is safe, right? I think that's one of the things that happens, is that our construct of what safety is changes, or we question it, because a lot of the times it's people, whether they're strangers or friends, it's people that we know, and that we trust, or we should trust, like to be safe around. It is our teachers, it's our co-workers, right? It's our boss, it's sometimes our friends or our family friends or our siblings friends, right? And so then we start to question what is safe, who can I feel safe around? And then not only that, we then start to question what spaces do I feel safe, right? And so even walking down the road, do I feel safe? Looking at the supermarket and going like, yo, I don't even know how this experience is going to go now, because just anywhere I go, I'm not sure of what is going to happen. Is something that happens, I think, quite common. But to say, that it's going to happen at this stage and at that stage, and it's tough, it's tough to
Yeah, and I
do
think
that.
stages is not the right word for it as well, because it doesn't happen like this first, this second. It can be back and forth. It could be aggression now, sleep issues later, then back to aggressive behavior. Like, it can be all over the place. It's not one thing and then the other. There's no timeline. There's no order. It is completely individual.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sorry.
Go ahead, doctor.
No, I was just saying sorry, like that it's not super helpful because it makes your job harder or everything.
No, believe it or not, I think it is helpful. It is helpful to know that you can't box certain diseases or syndromes. You can't always label it as that. And I think one thing that stands out is just kind of abnormal emotional behavior. And whenever we see that arise, we should do something about it. And you give us very good insights on, PTSD and just like the nightmares that they could be having, the different, just like anger come out of people, because when somebody isn't naturally an angry person, we know how they are. So when we see those changed behavior, and everybody has a different personality, a different behavior, so whenever we see those changes, that could give us an inclination and be like, something is not right with Sally today. So I think what has been constant in all of the things that you've been listing is that it is a change in behavior, and those things require attention. That is what I've gathered so far. And with that, I'm just going to give a few of the comments that our audience has been actively giving us. So this person says, Pascal Lindsay said, it's crazy to hear that so many things can be affected. Yes, so many things. OCD can be triggered. It's a trigger of that. I was totally unaware. Intellect 876 says, learning a lot here. Blessings to Dr. Rachel Brown. Also, Matthew saying, wow. Pascal saying, wow. And Ifiani saying, there's a lot of stigma behind Black people in general talking about post-traumatic stress concerning sexual assault and or harassment. Seriously. And victims end up feeling abandoned and lashing out at society. That is very true. Pascal saying trauma is hard to is hard to easily categorize. Shashika saying, sad but true. Chit Chat with Shan is saying, my cousin got raped by her father before he died, and she was so traumatized by the space, she couldn't live in their home anymore. It really, really impacts safety. And everybody's saying, yes, Dr. Brown, interesting, love to death in conversation. So we have, a very active comment section over here, and I just wanted to shed some light on that. My next question to the panel is, can the impacts negatively affect their ability to serve as parents? Because I personally can see where members in my family have been abused when they were younger, and that plays into how they treat us. But some of them, they treat us differently. Some of them are a lot more loving as a result of probably not receiving that. But then some of them aren't as loving. So I just want to hear your professional insight on how people who have suffered from these syndromes, how they turn out as parents. Anybody could take that one.
Well, I think the thing is, everything that happens in your life impacts how you are going to parent, how you've been parented, your experiences with schooling, and everything is going to impact how you behave with your children. It can be a situation where they are overly protective because they know these things have happened to them, might happen to their children. But again, as we've been saying with all these things, it's so individual that it's very hard to say these are going to be the effects, because everybody deals with these things in their own way, and therefore it's going to affect everyone's lives, all their relationships with their children, with future partners, with friends. It's going to affect all of these things in a very individual way.
Got you. Alexis, what is one piece of advice you would give to a survivor who is being victim blamed?
You're not crazy. You're not crazy. Everything that is around you is probably making you feel like you're crazy. You're surrounded by spaces that actually require you to be brave. And sometimes you just don't have that energy to be brave anymore. And what you deserve are actually safe spaces. Right. And you might be questioning, like, if you are the crazy one, because one, there may be other people around that just witnessed what just took place to you, and the world is continuing, like no one stopped, right? We're getting on with the lesson. People still walking to the bus stop. People still coming off at the next bus stop. Like, what? Nobody saw that? And then two, you could be telling people, you tell a friend, you tell a family member that this happened to you, and the reaction to you doesn't feel good, even if they might be saying the right thing, right? That what happened to you is wrong. I think they're not reacting the way that you need to feel heard and understood. And so you could be going through definite questions of whether you're going mad or not, or if you are the problem and you are not the problem. And what you do deserve is time and space to slow down, to breathe, and to feel safe, and to have many options in what that support is that you are centered in, and also many options in what justice looks like for you in that instance.
Wow, thank you for that. I know we have a restorative justice practitioner here. How does that relate to somebody who's been through sexual trauma? How does that work? Restorative justice.
That's a great question. The major thing I would say for restorative justice, and how it is very different to what we currently have as the current legal system, is that in the legal system, the state kind of acts as though they are the victim. So after something has happened, if you are to report, then it's the state that's the one that's going to name whether or not this fits into the criteria of sexual harassment, what the charge should be, whether they should even arrest the person, whether they're going to go forward with an investigation, and what the court case is going to look like. And having walked with many survivors during court, actually the few survivors that it's actually gone to a court case, survivors hardly ever talking or speaking in that process, right? So in terms of what happens and what the definition of justice is for survivors, it is defined by and controlled by the legal system, and it takes a lot of that power away from the victim. What restorative justice is looking at is you are the one that defines this, right? You are the one that also are centered in this process, and we are moving at your pace, and you define, right, how you are feeling. We're not telling you how to feel, and you get to define what this process looks like. So if you don't want to go the route of the legal system because that is too crazy or too traumatic for you, and you decide that you want to deal with this in another way, restorative justice is saying, let's go, right? Let's do this. The other thing that restorative justice is doing is that it is bringing in other people who are affected. So if something else happened to me, right, and my friend Shante saw it in the same classroom, right, Shante affected too, right? Yes. So it is also looking at the fact that there are expanding who is considered to be the people who are harmed, right? And involving them or inviting them, if they wish, to come into a process of support and accountability that will, that, as I said, is centered on the person who is harmed, and that they have a vested interest. and say in how that goes.
Wow, thank you for that. I just wanted to clear up the difference between the restorative judicial system or the restorative justice and the judicial system that we have. And not a lot of people know about restorative justice, so I'm glad you could shed some light on that and within the space of sexual trauma and the victims of that. What local support systems are available for victims to allow effective reintegration and continuous mental health support? I know lots of people are watching us on Facebook and on YouTube, and what are some resources that you could give to them to, even if it's not themselves, they could provide with somebody else in Jamaica?
Well, the government of Jamaica actually has a victim support unit where victims are referred to by SISOCA. The problem with that is that in order to be referred by SISOCA, you have to go and make a report. There are very many people who do not wish to make a report, who don't feel comfortable making a report. Therefore, they're now excluded from this process altogether. There are lots of people who need to go through a healing process before they may ever feel comfortable reporting, if ever. So I think that this is a big flaw in that process because it requires reporting.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
There's another place I think really needs a lot more attention is Women's Inc. They have a crisis center 24/7. You can go to the crisis center, you can call the hotline, and they'll be available to you. You don't have to identify yourself. You could be anonymous the entire time. And I love that. I think there aren't enough resources in Jamaica for, I guess, how prevalent this issue is. We need a lot more help in terms of that. We also need resources for men, as that is something that we do not talk about, something that is overlooked, and there are a lot of male victims of sexual violence and abuse as well.
Right. And so that's all you have for us, Women's Inc. I think we have to look into that to make a little infographic or something so people know more about the even though there might be few, but the resources that we have in Jamaica. So that's Women's Inc. And Shante, you mentioned.
I mentioned the victim support units, but that you have to be referred to them by SISOCA. There's also the Jamaica Mental Health Advocacy Network has a mental health hotline. So you can seek assistance through that for any mental health issues. There's a Government of Jamaica hotline for mental health as well. I think the number now is COVID-19 related, but it can be anything mental health related.
The Victims Service Division of the Ministry of Justice, I think they also have a telephone hotline. They offer counseling services. But as you said, once you make a report, they will refer you to SISOCA. And they encourage you to make the report as soon as possible, because generally what you will do is you'll go down to SISOCA and they will take the evidence necessary and start that process, the legal process of investigation. But yeah, just that.
Okay, we're going to get a little bit imaginative right now. So let's just say, in a perfect Jamaica, what would a justice system and survivor support system look like in a utopic Jamaica?
So you want to just change it all around. I like that. I like it. I think it would be, first of all, very victim and survival centered, as in they do not have to necessarily make reports until they are ready, that their help is available for them from the get-go, that it is easy to access, that these numbers are known widely, that they can just get help and not need to go through this reporting process. And then the reporting process also needs a big shake-up as well, in that the type of questions that they're asking, the level of comfort that comes with reporting is honestly right now, it's a lot of very triggering and traumatizing questions. And you are re-traumatized constantly because you are asked these questions when you go to report first, then you're asked to repeat them again. And then it goes through the court process where you are constantly reliving some of the worst times of your life now over and over again. So this process needs to be more streamlined so that you don't have to be constantly going through this emotionally over again.
Right. Wow.
To add to that, oh sorry, I was saying in a utopic Jamaica we wouldn't have these issues. Period.
Let's start there.
Let's
Yes,
start there.
you
They
are
don't
right.
need let's clear that up first of all. But if these issues were happening, I think there'd be a lot less victim blaming and victim shaming. What I've seen over and over again in my girls is people are asking them what they did. What did you do wrong? What were you wearing? What did you say? Did you have a conversation in the past that first of all, that's the first thing. I think also we would be a lot more educated as a society in terms of what is sexual abuse, what is sexual assault, what is rape, because I think we as individuals let a lot of things slide because we're not sure. Something feels off, right? But we can't, based on what we've been told rape is. That didn't happen to me, so I wasn't. But I learned just the other day, if a man removes a condom, just dropping some gems, removes a condom without your knowledge during sex, that's rape.
Yes.
I
Because
just
we did
learned
not
that.
consent to that in particular.
I just learned that. Like, that's rape. And we don't know these little things. And so I think we'd be a lot more aware. There'd also be a lot more support. The process of reporting would take a lot less time. It'd be more accessible. It'd be a lot easier, as Shantae was saying earlier. There are just so many things we need to work on. Also, counseling would be available, easily accessible, and we'd be more aware of the services that exist.
I love this question, Shantae. Can I just say what? Can I say what? No, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I just wanted to point out what the removal of condom mid-sex is called, like stealthing. That's the word for it, and it's a thing, guys. So just I'm glad you pointed that out, because sometimes we just don't know, and if we don't know, we can't act. And so go ahead, Mr. Garth.
I was just going to say that my energy just changed dramatically when you said, I think you said imagine. And I just think that we need some of these spaces, more of these spaces where we are just thinking creatively about what is possible, because survivors need creative millions of ways in order to go along this journey. And then to Dr. Brown's point, absolutely is a fact. Students, people, families need millions of ways to learn on the proactive, the preventative side, to dismantle the patriarchal system. It doesn't have to only be you have to go to school and get a degree, kind of thing. There are so many other ways. Maybe, yeah.
I said you're preaching, yes.
Yeah. And that it has to be that Dr. Brown decides what Dr. Brown wants, right? Yes. That Shantae decides that this is more. I want to go Hopewell, right, with a bag of people, and I want to just be in the nature, right? I just want to listen to the water crashing on the thing. Like, I just need that time. That is a part of my process. So the one thing I'll add is that I think we should, what has happened is we've kind of professionalized support in this whole thing, thinking that you have to go get a degree in psychology to be someone that can help. Or go to medical school or something. But we know, everybody who is here listening knows that you have either sought support of a friend, right, or a family member, and you are supporting. That is support, absolutely, completely. That is support, right? And that is probably even better support than I could offer you as a therapist, right? And if you have been if you are a survivor, that you don't necessarily want to come to this stranger in a room with a couch to talk about something, like that you do go to other people. So I think that we have to acknowledge and expand where we look to for this process of accountability and for justice and for support and healing, that it cannot rest solely with the state. It can't rest solely with the system, because how we've gotten here is because that state and that system is grounded and rooted in patriarchal, capitalist, environment and principles, and this is how we're here. So that have to end, right? And so, Shantae, we need more of them questions. Just imagine, and what will come out of that will be so brilliant, Wow. And it might not necessarily be. We might not necessarily be able to quantify it. Right, so we might have to also get away from this, like how we monitor and evaluate things, To be like, yo, if someone just say, yo, this felt good, me no know. You know, I'm not going right, but like I needed this, right? Tell me,
Yes.
we're good. Success, you know, kind of. So
Wow.
I
I
love
just
that
want to
energy.
give yes, of course. Wow, I didn't even know it was that potent. Thank you.
I
Thank you.
felt it. I felt it.
I just want to give some attention to our comment section because you guys are spitting gems and people in the comment section, they are agreeing. So we have here Chit Chan with Chan saying, my question is, how do we investigate or bring justice to reported cases without crossing the line of insensitivity? That, if anybody wants to talk about that a little bit. I think it would be hard to do that. You know what I mean? I think there's a system that is very rigid, and in order for us to not even touch on the line of insensitivity might be very impossible. And I think that's when Shantae comes in and she says, well, we have to streamline those processes so that they're not reliving their trauma. And as Alexis Goff said, it's reimagining a whole new process. We can't use the old process for something new and expect it to do something different. So I just thought I would go ahead, given the knowledge that the experts have just given me to to respond to that. Thank you. So right here, I have Pascal Lindsay saying, I've heard stories of men reporting sexual assault cases and getting laughed out of the building.
Yes. These things are very, very true. Very true.
Wow. And then Ifiani saying, I might be wrong, but majority of the reports or stories on abuse on men usually happens at a younger age. Majority of them preteens. I'm not very sure, but if that's well, I don't know if you have any stats to back.
I don't have any stats on that, but there is a lot of young men that are abused in that preteen, early teen time. Yeah.
Gotcha. Chit Chat with Shan is saying that it really happens. I've heard policemen discussing male sexual assault issues, and it's heartbreaking. So you have the persons who are supposed to be serving and protecting you, but instead they're laughing at you and even causing you more pain.
And that's the reason why a lot of people don't report. They might not have tried to report yet, but they've heard they've overheard a lot of statements. And if I've heard you speaking in this way, there's no way I'm going. I don't want to put myself through that. That's not going to be healing for me. So I'm just going to avoid it altogether.
Additionally, you go in feeling like you're not going to be believed, especially if you don't have any evidence. There's no sperm, there's no bruises, there's no nothing. There's no evidence. It happened 2 weeks ago. It happened 3 months ago. I mean, there was a very problematic statement made recently. We're all aware of it, based the time limit on reports. But I think that that's really problematic. So we need to work on that, believing people.
We really need to focus on that. And Christoph Ellis is saying, friends have told me that men can't be sexually assaulted based on how laws are worded. Haven't checked for myself though. And Adam Griffith is saying, to my knowledge, men are not even able to claim they've been raped in the context of the law due to how sexual assault laws have been written. And that there's truth to that, because that's we are talking on Wednesday. We started off with breaking down the bill and the inconsistencies and just the shortcomings of the current sexual harassment bill. And it's true. There's no provision for males to report being sexually assaulted. So that is very true. And that's how we have to create spaces like this and to just, improve and advance what is in place. Or sometimes just dismantle, because some things just have to throw away and start over. And yes, I'm checking the comments, Pascal. Yes, Chit Chat with Shan is saying, I've heard many people justify cases by saying she comes, so she wanted it. Me too. Matthew Clark is saying loss of moral value. That is very true. Adam Griffith answered us by saying much has to be done to improve accessibility and inclusivity of sexual assault reporting. I agree. And I want to touch on what Chichan Shan is saying, and orgasm as a justification of these crimes, a bodily reaction. Just because she come, that means it was just out of pleasure. No, that is wrong. And Shashika is saying, exactly, it's irritating. What you're wearing is a terrible excuse for being targeted by men like these. So a lot of persons are agreeing. Amen to Alexis. We must dismantle patriarchy. I agree, Rochelle. Facts, no cap. Yes, everybody is just in agreement. We have a very very lively comment section here. What have been some of the new ideas or way to reimagine justice? Yes, so we've just addressed that question. And yes, Marissa is closing it off and saying, period. Okay.
I just want to shout out the Every Mickle Massive in the comment section. You guys are the best. Love them.
That's right. And that segues into my last question for you. Could you tell us a little bit more about your organization and how it could support survivors and how we could find you and connect with you?
Okay, sure. So you can find us. Our website is www.everymickelfoundation.org and at everymickelja on Instagram. If you reach out to us, if it's a message, if it's an email, whatever it is, we will be there for you. We are committed to making Jamaica better. We are committed to making the world better, period, as we say, and helping you if you need help. Once we can, we'll find the resources. If we're not able to provide what you need, we will find those resources and we will advocate on your behalf. We believe you, we believe in you. As you read earlier, we're doing a lot of different things, but I think mental and physical health, which is a big part of this, that's a big part of our organization and something that we think needs to be improved on in Jamaica and in the world right now.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Shante, you want to give us a little bit more about your organization?
Well, we work with women along the lines of advocacy in different areas. Right now, we've been having a lot of COVID-19 talks on how this has affected sexual assault in Jamaica, how it's affected ability to seek help as well, because these are more challenging times. People are stuck at home, sometimes with their abusers. So we've been focusing on things like that and providing assistance to LGBT people in the form of groceries and food packages and things like that, because we have to make sure that our people are healthy and living before we can even go any further.
I agree. And is there any organization that you'd like to speak more about, Mr. Goff?
No, just highlighting and uplifting these two phenomenal organizations and the amazing people that are doing work in them. Yeah.
Thank you so very much.
Highlight and uplift you too, Jem.
Yes.
How can people reach you, Alexis?
Yeah,
I feel like a lot of people need you. How can people reach you?
Nobody needs me. They don't know.
Oh my gosh, we have the comment section going wild now.
What is something that's interesting to me throughout these 3 days? It's interesting to see so many people bring up the lack of gender neutrality or in the law and what is available. And it's interesting to me. On the one hand, I'm just like, yo, men, we need to not dominate these spaces. Like, what is up? Like, why are we talking so much? But on the other hand, I'm like, okay, there is truth to it. So to your point, Dr. Brown, if there are people and if girls who know Jay, I don't want to add stuff to the team, but if people who identify as men want to create co-create spaces to talk through this, I'm down, right? I'm down to co-facilitate. I'm down to create, because this is true, right? That we need to do this. But sometimes I feel like we need our own little space to do that, because we know that we still benefit from the system, right? So we need some of these spaces to not include us.
Yeah, well, I agree 100%. It's not to overshadow our voices, but to just strengthen and to amplify. And you have to strike that balance. And I think you have done a really good job at that so far, Mr. Goff. The comment section is going very, very well. They're like, yes, every Mickle. Dr. Brown, you've just ignited your massive right here. Lots of emotions. Outside. Wow, and that brings us to the close of our summit. Thank you guys so much for joining us and for educating and enlightening us with your expertise. And I've learned so much, and I'm pretty sure the persons in the comments, persons watching from Facebook and YouTube share the same sentiment. So thank you very much, and have a good day.
All right, bye. Thank you for having us.
Bye.
Amazing job. Thank you.
Thank you. Woo! Wow, what a day, what a summit. What a summit. Guys, please remember we are giving away a t-shirt. We are giving away a t-shirt right now. And I have to choose the winner, so don't leave it. You might be the winner of a nice My Name Isn't t-shirt. So we go on the post and choose a winner.
That panel was just refreshing and very hopeful.
Yes, I agree.
I really loved it. I was just there, period, in the background, period. It was really good. And the last question, or the second to last question about, in an ideal world, what would the justice system look like, and resources for people, what would that look like? And I feel like it's more of those type of questions we need to be answering, because honestly, we probably won't be able to completely fix what already exists, but we damn sure can create some systems for ourselves to help people. Yeah. So I love that. So Shantae, find a winner yet?
Can I choose two?
Yeah. We do have two shirts because we didn't give away one yesterday, so you're lucky.
Good. Oh, as you probably can tell, I'm not the best at making these decisions, but I've got my two winners. And the first one is Tia Shante _ on Instagram. She's the first winner there, and I think she's Chit Chat with Shan on YouTube. And lastly, I'd like to give Ella Kelly the other t-shirt. So Ella Kelly, Tiana, you guys have won t-shirts for yourself. So congratulations on that. My goodness.
You guys.
Congrats to you guys. You guys are going to rock it, wear it, strut it.
Yes.
And without fear.
As you should. And guys, shameless plug right here, since you're already on YouTube, just subscribe to my channel. It's Shantae Shand. Thank you very much. If you'd like to see more of my beautiful face and smile.
And Shantae, thank you so much for hopping on to be the moderator for these past 3 days. You did so well. You ensured that the conversation was kept going, and you facilitated it so well. So we want to thank you
Chelsea.
on behalf of Girls Who Know JA and the lovely audience. And guys, go subscribe to her channel.
All right. So we're going to tune in a little later for the recap and everything.
For sure. We're gonna close off right now, guys. So tune in tonight at, I keep saying the time wrong. Is it 6?
6, yeah.
Tune in tonight at 6 p.m. sharper than sharp on Instagram. Antoinette and I will be doing our third and final summit summary. What went down here today. So if you missed a little bit of it, don't fear. We will be doing the rundown tonight at 6. I feel like tonight at 6. Yes, tonight at 6. I completely enjoyed today. How did you feel today?
Definitely, I agree as well. Today was so good, so good. Right from Terry Carell's session with Joe Marie, Daniel, and Chad, to Shantae, to Dr. Brown and Alexis, and our discussion as well with Shantae. Everything was just so good. so insightful. I really love the engagement from our audience today and all the questions that were asked and answered. A lot of things resonated so well with me. I learned a lot. I have like 6 pages of notes. So it was really, really good.
I'm just sending out a after summit survey. So you want to go to the link in our bio, or click the link in our bio that will be there by this evening.
Yeah.
So you guys go and fill it out because we want to keep the conversation going and hope you guys enjoyed it. So remember to subscribe to our channel if you haven't subscribed to it already. I promise you that you will not regret it. You will not regret it.
That's right.
Convos coming soon. If you think this was great,
this was hey.
Come even more #unfiltered. All right. So tune in today at 6
on our Instagram. Yes.
We want to see a special for a better Jamaica. There are nonprofits based in the US that is really doing some amazing work in just supporting Jamaican citizens in general, and they were the nonprofit that sponsored our t-shirts. So guys, go and check them out on Instagram as well. They're called For a Better JA. And just thanks to everyone who tuned in, who engaged, all of our panelists and all of the organizations that worked with us behind the scenes. We really, really appreciate it. So, final words, Antoinette, before we sign off once and for all.
That's it. Thank you so much to everybody who joined. We really appreciate it. This summit was just so amazing and we're just so very thankful. Join us later for our summit summary and stay tuned to the Instagram. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have so much in store for you guys. So much is happening, and we're very excited and thankful.
So we'll see you guys at 6 today. Don't be late to Mrs. to this. All right, guys, I'm going to go over to the comments for a little bit. All right. So, oh, yeah. Bye. And a round of applause for Chelsea's here, too, because it's been popping all the days. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
That's facts, and that's on.
Period. Well, yes, guys, we're loving the love, and we are so thankful, and we'll see you guys at 7. You see how much time we say it? Don't be late. All right.
6.
Oh, I said 7. Oh my God, 6. Wow, 6. Just go and follow Girls Who Know JA.
Yeah.
Subscribe to our channel. So we're signing off now, guys.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Bye.